Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Thompson. I'm very excited about this particular hearing as I come from a small cow-calf operation myself. I grew up on a small ranch in Colorado, so I appreciate and sympathize with a lot of our witnesses here today. Livestock is one of the most important agricultural commodities in my district and certainly in our state. And what I hear on the ground from our producers in Florida is a far more nuanced and complex picture of the current challenges facing the livestock industry than this administration and the majority are willing to admit. The Florida cattlemen are ardently opposed to a cattle market mandate. And when I hear from folks back home, they typically express their concerns about government intervention and overreach that jeopardizes their own futures. Many of the mandates that have been proposed, the attacks on packers of all sizes, and an all-out war on the livestock industry, our producers from this administration that has chosen to wage war in the name of unfounded, unproven allegations will ultimately do more harm than good to the folks that I know back home, but of course elsewhere. Honestly, this seems like an oversimplification of a very complex issue is going to do more harm than good. Now, to that end, Mr. Schiefelbein, and I'm so sorry, I'm probably butchering that. I'd like to pick your brain about what I perceive to be a very real threat to the industry. Cattle producers are the first line of defense in protecting the land, the environment, and our natural resources. Sadly, or unsurprisingly, this administration has ignored this fact and instead marshaled its regulatory agencies to stage an all-out assault on our livestock producers with a slew of burdensome regulations that lack both science and logic. For example, the April 11th SEC published rule talking about greenhouse gases emissions and the disclosures for publicly traded companies. Now, our producers may not immediately be impacted, but this may require these companies to disclose emission dates from their supply chain, which could include our cattle producers. So how does regulatory dysfunction at the federal level, as I just mentioned, impact our U.S. cattle producers? And are you concerned that this administration may be pushing an agenda that is based far beyond real, credible scientific evidence?
Yeah, to answer the question, yes, absolutely. There are times when facts don't matter, and facts should drive everything. If you look at the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, how we differ from many other organizations is we are fact-based. So what the truth is what the truth is. And when they start to hurdle around emissions that are way beyond the reality of what's occurring out there, boy, you start to diminish the case and diminish the reality of what we're dealing with. So to me, it's all about getting the right information and the right people and promoting it correctly. If you look at the environmental grab on like waters of the United States, to me, that is an all-out grab to take away stewards of the environment and put the government in charge. And just from my perspective, I would encourage anybody who believes the government should have more say in managing resources to come out by me and look at the land that the government owns and manages, contrast it with the land that our private citizens own, and I think there would be not a soul in here who wouldn't say the movement towards more government control and reach over environmental controls is not healthy for the industry.
Thank you, Mr. Schiefelbein. And I might just call you Don so that I don't continue to butcher your name. But I do appreciate that answer. And I do appreciate the fact that you've got your hat sitting properly on the table. That's how I know that you're a true country boy. Now, you just further proved my point that the regulatory environment has helped kill our small and mid-sized processors and packers. And I know it's not just from your testimony today, but I can name about a half a dozen of these operations that have dissolved and are up for sale. And, it's just because simply the margins aren't there. We know that the margins aren't there. And I can tell you from experience that we don't always know what our inputs are. And I would challenge our producers to check on what our inputs are. Now, this is an ever-evolving situation, and we know that, and in large part because of the government overreach that we're experiencing. When you've got operations that are processing up to 2,500 cattle a week, and they still can't make the numbers work, and you would need at least 2,500 a week to make a regional dent in the marketplace. This isn't a mismanagement issue. This is a fact that this government and this administration are doing more to harm our producers and by extension the industry and the very vertically integrated system that we have, and we cannot sustain the regulatory environment to make these operations work. So it's just not tenable, and I thank you all for being here today. I know that this is something that is a very complex and nuanced issue, but to our witnesses for appearing before the committee, thank you for your testimony. And thank you to the chairman and the ranking member for hosting this very, very important topic. And with that, I yield back.